surrender unto him. That will protect the conditioned souls from all sinful reactions. Similarly, in this case, Brahma also suggested that they go and surrender unto the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, for since he is very kind and easily satisfied, this action would prove effective. Amagyanatimrandasya Gyanangana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual masters kindly, opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, we're going very slowly through the Bhagavatam. Because the speakers are away or sick. But we are here just about to go to Kailash, where Lord Shiva resides, because the demigods, after the devastating destruction of Daksha's sacrifice, have approached Lord Brahma, and they are in fear of what's just happened and afraid of what could happen further because of the violence and the anger of Lord Shiva's followers. And they understood that an offence, or they are understanding or learning about the repercussions of offending a great Vaishnava. And this is the essence of the instruction of this pastime, that, and it's actually in the previous verses, text 4, a couple of verses back, where Lord Brahma says, after he'd heard everything from the demigods, he replied, "You cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and thereby offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way," it's emphasised. So how do we apply this to ourselves? Because this is obviously a lesson to be learned. So if we look at what the sacrifice, the context is a big sacrifice that has occurred. And we understand that we are actually very fortunate in this age and very fortunate in this movement, because we've been given a sacrifice to perform, which Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, that of all sacrifices, I am japa. So we've been given this sacrifice to perform, which is a sacrifice that's very dear to the Lord. And this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, 16 rounds daily, chanting on beads. This is this prescribed sacrifice that Srila Prabhupada has given us to perform. Why do we perform sacrifices? What's the reason? Why do we have to sacrifice some time and sacrifice some resources? In this case, not very expensive resources. It's not like this, these Ashvamedha Yagyas where, Yudhisthira would send his brothers out to all different corners of the earth to collect the resources. And same with Lord Ramachandra or any of these great kings who would perform these big sacrifices. We could understand that Daksha's sacrifice was involving, sophisticated mantras and probably, animals were to be killed. So and it all had to be done properly, because obviously, it wouldn't be pleasing for it to be inappropriately done, because the animal needed to be given a better life. So everything had to be perfect. And but we don't have that responsibility to have to collect a whole lot of resources. All we have to do is make sure that our bead bag is clean, and that we've got 20 beads on the counter, and that we are able to, or 16, and we are able to find somewhere appropriate, that's quiet, that we can chant, and without offences. So here, this offence of blaspheming the devotee is discussed, and the reason why, the reason why we perform these sacrifices is ultimately to have an experience of ultimately pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because it is very difficult for someone who loves who you love to reciprocate with them when there's nothing coming your way. Even though love is defined as unconditional, true love is unconditional, and we can see. I was even thinking the other day how Krishna's love, how loving Krishna is. I'm not going to remember, it was just yesterday morning or the morning before. Krishna's mercy was coming in which way was it? I can't remember now, but so it's coming in many different ways. And so the Lord's mercy does actually express his love and affection even when he hasn't got anything to work with. Like the conditioned souls who don't want to have any relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or due to ignorance they just don't have that information. But still Krishna is providing for them and able to accompany them in the heart, and to give them little reminders through which they might perceive as a conscience that helps them to make more godly decisions or more pleasing decisions as they move throughout their existence. But if the soul was actually acting in knowledge of Krishna, then this gives Krishna more of a relationship with that soul, and he's able then to reciprocate more meaningfully with the soul. And so obviously when you are wanting to make a connection with someone or wanting to express some sort of affection, you will make a sacrifice for them. You will give up something of your own time, you will give up something of your own resources to give something to them. You'll make something for them, or you'll give something for them, or you will put aside what's going on in your life and in your mind, and put it right aside and just engage with that person's reality, so that you can help them, or so that you can please them, or somehow or other give them yourself, give to them something from you. So this is the meaning of love, actually. And so when Krishna, he's set up all of these sacrifices to be performed, ultimately it's the purpose of any sacrifice, any religious or any type of self-realization is based on pleasing Krishna. It's based on having a pleasing result and a pleasing atmosphere, or a pleasing connection with the Lord. So that's the purpose of the sacrifice. And what happens is, when you perform a sacrifice like that, the result is that your heart is pacified and pleased. Your heart is actually, tangibly, it is, the vibration within the heart is, it's not disturbed. It's undisturbed. It's actually pleased. Like yesterday, there was a kirtan in someone's house, and Revati did not want to go, and so I told her that if she didn't come, that she wouldn't be able to have she wouldn't be able to be on her computer, she wouldn't be able to go to anybody's house for a sleepover, she wouldn't be able to have any treats at the supermarket. And I just went on and gave her 5 big things. It's all going to take away, and she was very upset. And then I said, she said, so you don't want me to be happy at all? And I said, no. And then she had to follow me to the person's place. And she said, no, and she was complaining as she was following me, you don't want me to enjoy, you don't want me to be happy at all, you just want to make me suffer. It's like that, because I was taking away everything. Not that she was thinking about the kirtan at the person's place, but she was thinking about all the things that I just mentioned. And she was just, being dramatic, and I was being dramatic. No, nothing. No, I don't want you to be. I didn't say no, but she said, you don't want me. I said, no, listen until she followed me. And, then we came back to the house after. She said, oh, Mum, that was actually really nice. And I said, yes, and you can do anything. You can have anything that you want. You can have everything. And she was laughing. But, she was just making note that just having performed that sacrifice, she was satisfied. So this is the purpose of the sacrifice. So here, Lord Brahma is saying that if you blaspheme a great personality and offend his lotus feet, you cannot have happiness. So even though you will perform a sacrifice, you will not get the result if you've blasphemed a great personality. And then in these two verses, Lord Brahma is specifically explaining who Lord Shiva is and why because of his power, because he is so powerful, he says, who would dare to commit an offence at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva, knowing how powerful he is? And even though Lord Shiva was actually considered the son of Lord Brahma, but Brahma here is saying that none of the conditioned souls, including himself and all the demigods, can know how to satisfy Lord Shiva. This is how powerful he is. But then he says, it is known that he is very easily satisfied, so let us try to satisfy him by falling at his lotus feet. So Lord Brahma is going to take all the demigods across to the Kailash mountain, and they all will surrender to Lord Shiva, because this will protect them. Then actually, Prabhupada's saying, actually the position of the subordinate is always to surrender to the Supreme. That is the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, and I've just got this here. We know this verse, Sarvadharma prityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma suchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. And Krishna, so in this part of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying that he is telling Arjuna to please give up. Actually, it's interesting to study this, because what is Arjuna actually meant to give up? Which religious practices? Is this the Karma Kanda section, or is it all of these yogas that are actually like Karma Yoga section? What exactly is Krishna referring to when he's talking about the religious systems to give up? Because when you study it, and when you study it from different people, there's different purports to it. But my understanding is that actually Krishna is ultimately wanting us to actually give up Karma Yoga. Is that your understanding? Yeah. Which is, this is what most of us are doing, Karma Yoga. Most people are aspiring to become Karma Yogis. We're thinking that in some future life I will give my salary to Krishna wholeheartedly and not keep it so much back. But actually Krishna is asking Arjuna to ultimately surrender to him as Krishna's instrument. And this is how actually Arjuna, when he agreed to accept Krishna's ultimate message on that battlefield, he was not really just going to perform the duties of a Kshatriya and dovetail the results to Krishna. He wasn't going to be thinking, when I've killed everybody, I'm just, because you've asked me to fight, I'll do that, and then, the result is yours. No, actually, the instrument, the 9 processes of devotional service are bhakti. And this is what, in order to perform these 9 processes of devotional service properly, you have to take this instruction which is abandoning all varieties of religion and surrendering unto Krishna. It ends up with Atma Nivedanam, which is surrendering everything. But Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Vatyam, Shakyam, Atma Nivedanam, all of them are actually surrendering things. Because when he's saying here, the different processes, because Prabhupada's, what's happened in the Bhagavad Gita is that in order to actually surrender and give up what we think is religious, or what we think is, these different processes, in order to please Krishna the most, is to understand what they are that we're giving up. So when we are hearing about the process of Astanga Yoga, Karma Yoga and Astanga Yoga, we're hearing about the process of self-realization, where to put the consciousness, how to sit, how to breathe, where to put there, how to leave the body. All of these different processes that are explained are all bona fide processes. But that's not what Krishna wanted Arjuna to do. He didn't want Krishna to, go into the forest and perform Astanga Yoga, even though it's a bona fide process. And so, but why did he have to explain everything? Because they are ultimately bona fide processes. But Krishna wants us to even give up these bona fide processes in order to get the highest thing, in order to actually surrender, for Krishna to be able to reciprocate with us in a very loving and affectionate way, as the ultimate Lord of us. And he wants to take over and overlord us, so to speak, because it's like the lover wants to be dominated by the expert lover, and that's what Krishna is. He's an expert lover, and we actually want to be, controlled by him and led in a loving exchange from him, ultimately. And this can happen in 5 different ways. There's 5 different rasas. And the Lord is excited to actually assume that role for the conditioned soul. But in order to do that, then the conditioned soul has to become completely subordinate to Krishna. And this is what it's saying here, the position of the subordinate is to surrender to the Supreme. And so in Arjuna's case, you have... he's just about to fight this incredible battle, which is just so amazing to read, how he killed and how he showed such intense expertise on the battle. And we can understand from what Srila Prabhupada's told us is that the spiritual world, there's not that context. You don't have intense fighting happening in the spiritual world. There's no conflict. It's a totally different atmosphere and environment. So Krishna, at the same time, he's the Supreme Lord, and everything is so much more amazing than our experience. So you can understand that he is wanting to experience this rasa of fighting in the most, brilliant way, not in some sort of, Kali Yuga way or material world way. It has to be, it has to be between Bhishma and Arjuna. And so, in order for this to be really amazing, Lord Krishna himself is going to be working with Arjuna, and Arjuna is going to be totally subordinate to Krishna. So, Krishna's going to be subordinate to him as well. So it's going to be this most incredible experience, an incredible fight, and it's going to be actually exhilarating for Krishna. Krishna himself is going to be feeling the exhilaration of acting as Arjuna's chariot driver. But not only that, the result is going to be a complete wipeout of all the demoniac kings on the planet, which was the whole purpose of Krishna leaving the Goloka Vrindavan and coming to the material world. So the result is going to be he's going to have fulfilled his purpose in a dynamic way. So he's saying to Arjuna, Arjuna, why are you lamenting like this? This is not your this is not becoming for you. And so he's wanting, ultimately actually it's a drama, and he's got the same plan for all of us, to give up this, pathetic kind of lamentation that we sort of impose upon our lives and actually become dynamic servants of the Lord through submitting to him only and allowing Krishna to use us as his instrument. So in this paragraph, Prabhupada's saying, the Lord asks everyone to give up all kinds of concocted occupations and simply surrender unto him. So what are these concocted occupations? Is that just like a hippie person who is making up that he wants to be a do-gooder of the world? Or is it like, what is that concocted occupation? This is the question. Is it the concocted society that we live in? The concocted, occupations. What exactly is it that the Lord asks everyone to give up all kinds of concocted occupations and simply surrender unto him? That will protect the conditioned souls from all sinful reactions. And, how human society is now, is it a concoction that has veered away from the human society that it was meant to be specifically after the Battle of Kurukshetra? Because the other thing that happened was that Yudhisthira Maharaj was then put on the position, and he re-established human society and established it and then gave it to Maharaj Parikshit, and then Maharaj Parikshit to Janamejai Maharaj, and they were all empowered at a pivotal point of history, which was when the Dwapara Yuga was turning into the Kali Yuga. So it was significant that they were going to be, trying to establish something solid, when the bad weather was about to come. So, and it came. And, we are now and then what happens according to the Bhagavad Gita, when things go off track, Krishna again comes, or he sends his representative. So Srila Prabhupada came at a time when things were really off track again. More so, it's not just demoniac kings, because in that time there was demoniac kings, but the people were naturally innocent. But nowadays, it's not just the government, it's also the people are wanting that bad government. It's a democracy, and they're voting these people in. They want to be cheated, actually. Or people want to be cheated so that they can fulfill their desires. So Srila Prabhupada was sent, and he came to re-establish. How was he going to re-establish it? Through in an environment where the caste system was considered demoniac, so to speak, considered in modern society. How could he just come in and establish the Varnashram system like Yudhisthira Maharaj did? Because it would be unacceptable. It was unacceptable. As soon as there was even any hint of casteism in Srila Prabhupada's preachings, people would discard it. So there was no understanding of simultaneous oneness and difference, where the soul is ultimately equal. We're ultimately all equal, but we have different different social, levels of understanding because of the activities and the karma of the souls. Because everyone's done different things to different degrees, and therefore they've got different karmas. And so in order for there to be some sort of peaceful, cooperation, there has to be, establishment of various types of occupations and different levels of respect that's given to those different ones, because there's a different level of sacrifice that each role is meant to perform. For example, the brahmanas, they're meant to someone who's a brahmana has got the adhikara and the karma to actually perform much more sacrifice than the Sudra. They have got more expectation. They have to perform a lot more sacrifice and austerity, and therefore, the human responsibility is that all other castes, or what do you call all other varnas, offers more respect to the Brahmins. So this has to be understood. But also, the Brahmanas' sacrifice means that they, on a very deep level, realise the ultimate actual principle of spiritual realisation, which is samadarshana, which is equal vision. So the equal vision, or they actually see that all souls are the same, and they see that the soul inside the animal is actually, they see the soul there, they see that living entity is non-different from me, that they are actually just somehow or other got into a fix. So this is, but how could Prabhupada establish this? So what happens is he created this whole ISKCON, which is based on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy of dancing, chanting, taking prasad, and this is an amazing movement meant to actually revitalise the whole of human society. So there's surrendering unto Krishna and becoming an instrument to help the establishment of this movement is ultimately the message behind this purport, that if we have a pride and we're not able to submit like that, then we run the risk of committing an offence to the Vaishnavas, and then we might, or at worst or at best, we would, not understand the position of the Vaishnavas and then commit an offence to them. And so Prabhupada's message is, if we could submit to Krishna and accept Krishna only as our authority and our supreme Lord and Master and supreme lover, ultimately, that's the goal. One day I will have a very intimate, loving relationship with Krishna. Then that personality will fulfill everything. Then we can have this focus that we require to actually become liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So I'll stop there if anyone has any questions or comments. Okay, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai.